Today, the German Mummy Project is collecting a new mummy for study. Rosendahl's international team of experts come from a broad range of disciplines and include scientists that worked on King Tut's mummy. They've come to this moat-encircled 13th century castle in southern Germany. Called Sommersdorf Castle, it's been in the von Crailsheim family for almost 500 years. The current Baron von Crailsheim is understandably proud of his family's long-standing legacy here.
Well, the bloodline dates back to about the 12th century. The first Crailsheims were mentioned in the 12th century. My family comes from an area which is west from here, near the city of Crailsheim, and probably the name of the city of Crailsheim goes back to my ancestors. My family is here at Sommersdorf since 1550.
What makes this place so intriguing for Rosendahl is the family crypt, specifically the contents of the crypt. The mummified ancestors of Baron von Crailsheim. 5 of his ancestors are remarkably well preserved. A case of natural mummification.
I think since the mummies were discovered in 1806, when the French under Napoleon had been in this area, there had been a lot of guessing about the reason, the cause of the mummification. They were talking about earth rays and fungus and whatever. And after World War II, there had been Americans here with a Geiger counter, and they thought they found some radioactivity. And I think this was a good story which was told until the 90s.
To achieve a better understanding of how his ancestors became mummies, Baron von Crailsheim has opened his crypt to the German Mummy Project.
You can see now some relatives, a few hundred years old, and we will do in the next hours a DNA sampling, and we will start our conservation work. If you can see, the mummies are still in good condition, but we can do a little bit for a better condition. And this woman will go to the S exhibition.
These are the mortal remains of the Countess von Guyenne. Family law places her as a direct ancestor of the current Baron. The Countess's excellent state of preservation offers a potential opportunity for the researchers to map her history in terms of her DNA and how it relates to living members of her extended family.
The main question is now the relation to the recent family of von Crailsheim. She's one of the ancient family members, so the main question is she really a relative of the Crailsheim family, and in which branch we can fit the Asian family members with the recent family.
Fingers as well as some of the...
The remarkable condition of the 5 bodies is primarily due to the very stable environmental conditions of the crypt. A dry environment combined with a marked absence of the usual animal and microbial vectors that bring about a body's disintegration present Rosendahl's researchers with a singular opportunity.
We try to get different types of tissues, for example, teeth or hair or soft tissue, and especially in this particular case you can easily get access to the abdominal tissues, internal organs, and that will actually help us not only to determine the type of organ but also the possible underlying pathologies, for example, and if the lady was pregnant or just after birth, giving birth, she may actually have sort of internal organs which showed different conditions. For this endeavor today, we actually want to take tissue samples from hair, soft tissue, bone, to get some idea about the preservation of the DNA, and we actually will see whether we can find some sort of relationship between these individuals and still living relatives.
To avoid a contaminated sample, scientists prefer to work with tissue samples collected from deep within the body. They can also sometimes get quality DNA from inside human teeth. Now, the most delicate part of the operation begins. The Countess is being taken to where she can be studied in more detail. That means moving her from her resting place of the last 3 centuries.
We're trying to avoid to break parts of the mummy while taking it out of the coffin. We are not going to take the coffin to the conservation lab because the coffin wouldn't fit through the narrow doors, and it has to be turned around the mummy anyway in the lab to construct support from glass fiber and epoxy resin for the long-term conservation of the mummy.
In addition to replacing the Countess's coffin with a smaller frame, the team needs to create a foam cushion to support her as they perform their most critical and potentially risky maneuver. After careful conservation and study, the Countess will join the exhibit, Mummies of the World. First, though, she is being moved to the Reichsengelhorn Museum, where she will join the Count who was removed from the crypt on an earlier visit. The Count was buried with his boots on, perhaps a legacy of the times during which he lived. The 30 Years' War, from 1618 to 1648. Further study may reveal whether he died of one of the diseases wrought by that war. The Count and the Countess are embarking on a journey into a high-tech world of scientific research and documentation that would have surely astounded them, as well as all those who once lived and died alongside them.